In the distant future, humanity has colonized millions of planets, creating a vast, centralized galactic empire. Its capital, Trantor, covers the entire surface of the planet, turning it into the technocratic heart of civilization. At first glance, everything seems stable. Officials work, technology thrives, and billions of people live under one imperial roof. But this stability is only an illusion. In the underground depths of Trantor, a new idea is brewing, one that will challenge the very existence of the Empire. At the center of it all is Gary Seldon, who appears to be a modest scholar, but is in fact a genius who has created a new science, psychohistory. It's a combination of mathematics, psychology, and statistics that makes it possible to predict the future of large populations. Seldon does not predict the fate of any individual person. He sees the trends of entire civilizations. His equations predict that the Galactic Empire is inevitably heading toward collapse. Seldon's prophecy: within the next 500 years, the Empire will fall. There will follow 30,000 years of barbarism, anarchy, and the destruction of knowledge and cultures. But if action is taken now, this period can be reduced to just 1,000 years. At this moment, Gall Dornick arrives on Trantor, a young mathematician from a provincial planet. He sees the capital as a fantastic marvel, thousands of levels, endless clouds of metal, artificial lighting instead of sunlight. But just a few hours after his arrival, he is arrested. He is accused of participating in a conspiracy. He meets Seldon in prison. He is calm and confident. The Imperial Tribunal holds a trial for Seldon. He is accused of making anti-imperial statements and attempting to incite panic. But the scientist does not back down. He proves that he is not inciting, but warning. His science is not political, but mathematical. It is no longer possible to stop the collapse of the Empire, but it can be mitigated. Killing him would make him a martyr. But the Empire doesn't want to take that risk. Seldon offers a compromise: to establish a colony of scientists on the remote planet Terminus. Officially, the purpose is to create an encyclopedia of the galaxy and preserve knowledge for future generations. Unofficially, it will be the seed of a new future, the foundation for a second civilization that will one day restore order to the galaxy. Gall is sent along with the colonists. Seldon stays on Trantor, likely for good. They don't yet know that what's ahead is not just the archiving of knowledge, but hundreds of years of struggle, manipulation, crises, and transformation. Seldon says, "I won't be able to intervene anymore, but every event to come has already been foreseen, and you are a part of it." About 50 years have passed. We move to the distant planet Terminus, the new home for the colonists who call themselves encyclopedists. Officially, they are carrying out a mission to compile the Encyclopedia Galactica, gathering all of humanity's knowledge. They live in isolation, deeply absorbed in science, and not particularly concerned with politics or external threats. But things around the Foundation are becoming less and less stable. The Empire is growing weaker. The central authority on Trantor no longer has power, and the surrounding peripheral planets are turning into semi-independent kingdoms, harsh, authoritarian, and hungry for resources. The planet Anacreon, one of the neighbors, is becoming the main threat to Terminus. They demand the transfer of technology and resources, threatening to take over if their demands aren't met. The Foundation has no military. Its leaders are scientists who try to negotiate using the language of logic and knowledge, not force. The Empire no longer intervenes. Terminus is left face to face with its future. Against this backdrop, Salvor Hardin emerges, a young, ambitious politician who opposes the dogmatism of the encyclopedists. They believe their only role is to write the encyclopedia. He believes that's an illusion. The Foundation must survive, exert influence, and develop its own politics and diplomacy. Hardin sees a threat that others refuse to acknowledge. He isn't allowed onto the High Council. He's considered too practical. But that's exactly where his strength lies. At a critical moment, When it seems like Anacreon is about to crush the Foundation, a hologram of Gary Seldon is activated in the archives. He appears before the council and says, "All of you thought you were creating an encyclopedia, but the real goal isn't knowledge, it's the survival of human civilization. And this stage of your development is now complete." This comes as a shock. Scientists understand that all these years were sands in a larger scheme of things. Seldon predicted not only political decline, but also how people would react to fear, pressure, and threats. Hardin uses the crisis to carry out his strategy. The Foundation's technology will be presented as a gift from the gods. The physicists become priests who serve the temples of energy. Reactors are divine machines, medical devices, miracles of faith. This is how they are shaped. A new system of influence emerges, a religion based on technology, which the Foundation spreads among the surrounding planets. The planets become dependent on the priests, and because of this, they fall under the Foundation's control, peace through faith. Hardin manages to avoid war with Anacreon. Their leader himself becomes dependent on the Foundation's priests, because they maintain the weapons, equipment, and energy systems. Without them, everything would come to a halt. The Foundation wins without firing a single shot. But this is not the end. It's the beginning of a new era of influence. Hardin forms a new political structure. He is not just the mayor of Terminus. He is the architect of a new civilization that is already beginning its expansion. His words sound like a warning. The Foundation will not survive if it remains just a museum. It must become a force, or else it will be swallowed by darkness. Years have passed. The Foundation is a state that is awakening. Hardin is no longer a young oppositionist, but the acting mayor of Terminus, the political leader of the entire Foundation. The technological religion he created is thriving. The planets under the Foundation's control believe in the light of the energy of the bearers of truth and are sincerely convinced that the Foundation is the intermediary between them and the gods of technology. The Foundation rules not by force, but by dependency. If a world breaks the order, its reactors, medicine, and telecommunications are shut off, they are left in the dark. The largest of the colonies, Anacreon, decides it will no longer be subordinate. The new prince, Weenies, decides to break free from religious dependence and become an equal player. He has ambitions to rule all the neighboring worlds, to subjugate the Foundation, and to take advantage of the fact that the Foundation has no army. He offers a friendly alliance, but in reality, it's an ultimatum. Hardin sees the situation clearly and understands what Weenies is planning. He knows that direct opposition is impossible. Openly challenging them would be suicide. A new crisis needs to be created, the one Seldon predicted, but he remains silent. He doesn't warn anyone. On the contrary, he allows the prince to prepare for the invasion. At the same time, Hardin sends the priest Polyvarus to Anacreon, officially as an ambassador, but in reality as a Trojan horse. The priest joins the technical staff who service the prince's new weapon. It's a massive spaceship that once belonged to the Empire, but was restored by the Foundation. Inside, he quietly convinces the crew that without a blessing, the ship won't work, and that the prince's orders go against their faith. As a result, when the prince tries to activate the ship, the crew sabotages the launch. At that moment, a new holographic message from Gary Seldon is triggered. All the Foundation's leaders gather in a special room, and Seldon appears. "You have successfully overcome the next crisis. As I predicted, the threat of external aggression was to be overcome not by military force, but by intelligence, psychology, and proper preparation. You are moving in the right direction. This is not just confirmation, it is a mechanism for legitimizing Hardin's policy. After this, no critic stands a chance." Despite the success, an internal conflict is brewing within the Foundation. The religious elite feels that they are losing control. The priests were used to ruling over the believers, but now Hardin is centralizing power. turning religion into a tool rather than a goal. He is gradually pushing priests out of politics, handing key positions over to secular administrators and merchants. Ideology is giving way to pragmatism. Religion is no longer the main instrument of power. Now it's about political diplomacy, economic integration, and technological superiority. Hardin creates a network of treaties, weaving dependence into them. Technology, infrastructure, supply. No planet can exist without the foundation. It becomes not just a scientific center, but a federation of worlds dependent on its resources, technology, and knowledge. Salvor Hardin ends his career at its peak. He didn't just create a colony. He's the father of a nation, the founder of a strategy that will continue to work for centuries. But new crises lie ahead. Now, the main force is no longer religion, but trade. Several decades have passed since Salvor Hardin's rule. The religious system of influence that helped the Foundation become the dominant force on the periphery has run its course. People no longer worship technology as something divine. They've gotten used to it and now see practical benefits. The world no longer needs faith. It needs deals, resources, and profit. At the center of this new story is Haber Mallow, a trader who is at once an entrepreneur, a strategist, and a political thinker. He is self-taught, not from the aristocracy or the old scientific elite, and so he thinks outside the box. His weapons are his intellect, adaptability, and a deep understanding of human nature. Mallow is assigned a mission to travel to a region where Foundation ships have been disappearing without a trace. Suspicion falls on the remnants of the Galactic Empire, which haven't been heard from in a long time. He is tasked with investigating, but it's an unofficial assignment. He sets out on his own, acting as a merchant rather than a politician. Mallow arrives on the planet Coral, which has refused to accept the Foundation's influence. Their leader, Commissioner Comder, is an aggressive anti-Foundation figure who openly sympathizes with the restoration of the Empire. Mallow behaves as cautiously as possible, never imposing anything, speaking like an ordinary merchant, and promising only trade. Instead of religious expansion, he offers goods. The people of Coral are interested. Medical instruments, generators, household appliances, everything they don't have. They're captivated not as believers, but as consumers. On Coral, Mallow secretly discovers that remnants of the Empire are still alive. The planet is supported by the Empire. They supply them with old weapons and a fleet. But Mallow sees that the Empire is weak, its systems are outdated, its administration is ineffective, and its fleet is rotting. It's more a phantom of power than a real threat. He decides there's no need to attack. It's better to bribe, entice, and make them dependent. Mallow returns to Terminus and publicly declares, "We don't need an army. We don't need gods. We have something better, goods. And if we make ourselves indispensable, no fleet will go to war against us, because we are the source of their livelihood." He launches the Foundation's new economic strategy. The traders spread new technologies throughout the galaxy. Every device contains a key that can only be activated and serviced by the Foundation. If a planet refuses, the technology is locked, and its economy is paralyzed. Mallow's success earns him enemies. The old politicians, tied to the religious system, accuse him of heresy, treason, lobbying, and acting on his own authority. Mallow responds with calculation and transparency. He publishes all the information about the Empire, exposing the true weakness of the opponent. He declares that trade is the new religion, and it gives even more power. He is supported by the people and the new economic elite, merchants who are getting rich quickly and expanding their influence. As a result, Mallow becomes the mayor of Terminus, but he is no longer a mayor in the usual sense. He is the architect of a new empire, where the Foundation is the center of manufacturing, services, and technology exports. Its influence doesn't lie in its ships, but in the fact that without it, the planets can't survive. The Foundation stops being a colony. It becomes the center of a new economic order, created not by Seldon's dreams, but by the flexibility of people who understood money, service, and control, the most reliable weapon. Mallow says, "We haven't changed Seldon's plan. We are its natural evolution. Religion was just a phase. The Foundation continues to grow rapidly. Traders, acting as ambassadors, spread its influence deeper into the galaxy. All neighboring worlds are already partially or completely dependent on the technology and services provided by the Foundation." After decades of silence, the remnants of the Galactic Empire, which control part of the inner galaxy, make themselves known again. Imperial General Bel Rios is not your typical official. He is energetic, ambitious, disciplined, and driven by the ambitious goal of restoring the Empire's greatness and stopping the creeping colonization by the Foundation. He organizes a military campaign, prepares a fleet, captures small border planets, and studies the Foundation without relying on the services of traders. Mallow realizes that he is losing control. The Empire is not like those wild kingdoms that worship religion, but rather a military machine, even if it is aging. He cannot wage an open war, but he has something else: information. Through agents and traders, he learns that the Imperial fleet heavily relies on old technology that can no longer be repaired. The planets along the fleet's route depend on supplies from the Foundation. If they end up isolated, their economies will collapse. He secretly launches a campaign to undermine General Bel Rios' reputation in the eyes of the Imperial Court. Although Bel Rios achieves some initial successes, Mallow is playing the long game. Through his agents, he spreads rumors that the general is aiming to establish his own dictatorship, plotting against the Emperor, and wants to unite the galaxy under his own name. The Emperor, who is afraid of his own shadow, reacts instantly and recalls the army. Rios is put on trial, and the campaign is halted. The Foundation does not win battles. It turns its enemies into its own tools. The Empire stops itself, because it fears an internal threat more than an external one. We are the infrastructure. They are more afraid of losing us than of conquering us. And even though Seldon's name is no longer mentioned in the novel, his shadow looms over every decision, every crisis, every turning point. The Foundation is not just a state, it is a tool of history, a strategic center that rises from the ashes of the old empire and aims to become the heart of a new galaxy. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to write in the comments which book you'd like to see next. Your ideas are very important. See you in the next videos.